But what do you do when the one touch you've been longing for comes from the person who should never desire you back? I never intended for it to unfold this way. It was merely a hug, a simple-verity embrace, the kind a mother gives her grown stepson. Upon his return from college, a warm visual, or at least that show it was meant to be, but the moment this arms encircled me, I realized this was something entirely different. His body was taller than I remembered. Rotor his chest pressed against mine, a way that made my breath hitch-hickoryed, the scent of cedar and something deeper, more primal, a scent that spoke off masculinity rather than boyhood. As I attempted to pull away, I felt something that startled me, an undeniable tension between us. Even through the layers of fur clothing, my lips parted in a silent gasp. He didn't flinch or stammer an apology. Instead, he held me there, his fingers flexing against the small of my back, making me acutely aware of every inch of what I had stirred within him. He froze, not in disgust or outrage but in a deep insatiable hunger. We broke apart too quickly, both of us finding ignorance of what had just transpired. Sorry, didn't mean to squeeze so hard. Murmured, I muttered, rubbing the back of his neck as any awkward 2-year-old might do. It's fine. I lied, my voice to hide my cheeks burning, but it wasn't fine, Becca's. Now I knew, now I had felt it, that knowledge of what he wanted, what he suddenly wanted, hung between us like a live wire that night alone in my bed while my husband snored beside me. Ear played it, the way his breath had hitched when my hips brushed against him, the way his grip had tightened just for a second as if he were fighting the ergetto grind into me, the way his eyes had the atmosphere thickened as I finally stepped back, his gaze momentarily fixing on my mouth for a fleeting forbidden second. I slid my hand beneath sheets, seeking a comfort that wasn't there, envisioning it was his fingers instead of my own. The intensity of my was so overwhelming that I bit my lip, drawing blood to stifle any sound. Following morning, I convinced myself it was merely a fluke, a biological scent. Nothing more. Yet, when he entered the kitchen shirtless, droplets of water still clinging to his chest from the shower, everything shifted. Thinness. He reached for the coffee behind me. He accidentally brushed against my back, and in that moment, I caught him staring, gazing at the way my robe gaped open as I bent over the dishwasher. I found Mace leaning into it, allowing the fabric to slip a little further. With each passing moment, I lingered just a bit longer, fully aware of how his gaze did something within me. It all culminated on a rainy afternoon. The house enveloped in silence, save for the rhythmic patter of rain against the windows. Then there he was, Noah Bennett, standing in the doorway of my bedroom, his gaze locked onto mine. We need to talk, he said, his voice rough. I understood exactly what he meant. I was aware of the consequences of allowing him entry, yet I chose to step aside. Hadn't make contact initially. He merely stood there, his chest rising and falling with an urgency that was palpable. You felt it, he stated, not as a question but as a certainty. I could have feigned ignorance, but instead, I whispered the truth. Yes. His jaw tightened, and indeed he had pushed him away, a stark reality. The air between us crackled with tension, and then he closed the distance in 2 swift strides, his hands framing my face. His voice, a low growl, demanded, tell me to stop. But I had no desire to halt him. Irish it, his mouth collided with mine fervent, and his kiss was deep, consummingas, if claiming space I didn't know I had left open, and God help me, I craved it. I was and always this person. There was a time when I believed in right and wrong, when the word sin held weight, but loneliness alters you, rewires your very essence. My name is Evelyn Harper Dawson. Thou most days I scarcely recognized reflection staring back at me at 43. I should have been relishing that mid-age. I worked so hard to cultivate a respected interior designer with a beautiful home in the suburbs, married to a successful cardiologist, a mother too. Well, that's where the narrative takes a turn. I was raised in Charleston, South Carolina, of a stern Southern Baptist preacher, and his quietly discontented wife. Our home brimmed with regulation. See, it lacked warmth from a young age. I understood that desire was something to prayed away, that a woman's worth was gauged by her purity. By the time encountered Richard at 28, I was so deprived of affection that I misinterpreted his cool clinical attention as love. Dr. Thomas Caldwell was 45 when we wed, handsome in that distinguished Silver Fox manner, affluent and utterly emotionally unavailable. Our courtship unfolded as a sequence of lavish dinners where he spoke of his work while I merely nodded in agreement. Intimacy was efficient, 3 positions, always in the dark over in a mere 15 minutes. I convinced myself this was the essence of mature love when we adopted Noah Bennett at 16 following the tragic loss of his parents. I hoped it would draw us closer. Instead, it merely provided Richard with another soul to overlook. By the time Noah Bennett departed for college, my marriage had transformed into a beautifully adorned dome, and Richard and I moved on through the house. Like phantoms we communicated slowly to align our schedules untouched for years, save for the rare awkward goodnight. I filled the void with wine, with work, with the endless scroll of Instagram at 2 a.m. wondering how everyone else's lives appeared so vibrant while mine felt like a perpetual waiting room. Then Noah Bennett returned home for summer break at 22. Noah Bennett was nothing like the awkward teenager we had once known. Prison workouts had sculpted his lean frame into something formidable and fierce. His dark hair always seemed to possess an untamed quality, a slightly tousled as if he just emerged from the embrace of the wind, and those eyes green like the ocean before a storm, always watching, always knowing too much. I convinced myself that my observations were rooted in a maternal pride, the kind every mother feels as she admires her stepson's growth. But when he walked shirtless from the pool, water cascading down the ridges of his abs, my mouth went dry in a way that transcended our parenting. It began with small lingering glances when he thought he wasn't looking, the way my pulse quickened when he'd lean over Miss Holder to see, and my phone screen illuminated his chest, pressing against me back. That night I descended the stairs in my silk robe, catching him staring not with a stepson's gaze but with the intensity of a man. I should have halted it, should have donned more clothing, created distance between us. Instead, I sought reasons to bend over when he was near, to inadvertently brush against him in the kitchen. Each small betrayal sent a thrill through me that Richard hadn't ignited in a decade. Isn't it truly my stepson? It's merely harmless flirting. I deserve to feel desired. The lies we tell ourselves. Arethea most potent the night before the embrace. I found myself in a precarious state, having indulged in too much wine. I made the ill-fated choice to scroll through old photographs. Our wedding day, Noah Bennett's high school graduation, image a reminder of moments that should have held significance. The loneliness struck me like a physical ache when Noah Bennett discovered me weeping in the kitchen at midnight. Hadn't inquire about my sorrow, instead simply enveloped me in his arms. His heartbeat, a steady rhythm against my cheek. In that instant, he transcended the role of my stepson, becoming just a offering solace to a woman who had been deprived of it for far too long. That waste moment, I realized I was already lost. Some lines aren't meant to be cross-eyed, but the moment his lips touched mine, I realized I had been running toward this ruin my entire life. It was the kind of summer night that felt charged with electricity, the air thick with a promise of rain. Richard was away at another weekend alone in our 2-0 big house. I had spent the evening drinking wine on the patio, watching the sky darken, trying not to think about the way Noah Bennett's hands had flexed around my waist during that hug 3 days earlier, trying and failing. A Noah Bennett discovered me there, barefoot, in me delicate sundress, the hem riding up me thighs as I nestled into the patio care. He remained silent at first, leaning against the railing, his white shirt clinging to the sweat on his chest. The silence between us was no longer empty, it was laden with unspoken heavy storms coming. Hemmer murmured, his voice rougher than usual. It took another sip of wine, my fingers stumbling around the glass. I like storms. That's when he moved in an instant. He was no longer across the patio, but right in front of me, plucking wine from my hand as his fingers brushed against mine. The touch was deliberate, lingering, and my breath caught in my throat. You've been he said, and I swallowed hard. Wish Holden shouldn't. What his thumb traced the rim of my glass, where my lip had just been. Say it. Lightning flashed outside, illuminating the hunger in high size. I dream about you, he murmured sallow. I almost missed it every night the way you smell, the way you move. My pulse roared in my ears. This was wrong, so wrong. But when his free hand slid up my bare calf, my thighs fell open of their own accord. Noah Bennett, tell me to stofus, and my fingers tightened. A surge of urgency coursing through me. I should have called out to God, but instead, he whispered for him to keep going. The glass shattered on the patio. Stone's ash pulled me against him, his mouth crashing into mine with a fervor that was both hot and demanding. His tongue wept in claiming me, as if I were Heisand. I surrendered, willingly craving him. His hands roamed freely, tangling in my hair, gripping my hips. His hands settled at the small of my back. I gasped as he lifted me onto the railing, the wood pressing into my thighs, his body wedged firmly between my legs. Wow, he growled against my neck, pulled me close, the tension between us nearly unbearable. A fire within, or I felt an overwhelming rush, his presence palpably demanding through the fabric of his jeans. My fingers traced the contours of his back, while my dress crept higher around my waist. The first raindrops kissed my skin as he pulled me inside, our mouths still locked together, hands frantically shedding layers. We stumbled toward the couch, losing ourselves in themament, his teeth grazing my collarbones, hand trailing lower, making my breath itch. The desire surged within me, and he commanded, look at me. When I did, thorough hunger in his gaze unraveled me, This was not love, nor was it mere affectionate, was something far more primal. A consumption enveloped me, and when Heffinally entered my scream was not born of pain, but rather from the chilling awareness that this moment had been a lifetime in the making. In the aftermath as we lay entwined amidst the ruins. Off me marriage, Noah Bennett's fingerstrist, the wedding band. I still wear Ados, he make you finish like that? The question, though inappropriate, sent a thrill through me. No, I confessed, my voice ragged. His grin was steeped in possession, dark and intoxicating, just like that. I belonged to him. The first encounter was meant to be the only one, yet addiction has a way of rerouting tensions, especially when you share thesum roof. Sunlight streamed through the curtains, illuminating the evidence scattered across my bedroom floor: his shirt, my torn panties, the condom wrapper we had been too frantic to properly discard. Noah Bennett was gone, slipping back to his room before dawn, but the scent of him still clung to my sheets. I should have felt shame, guilt, anything. But instead there was this electric hum beneath my skin, this desperate need to do it all again. Then the phone buzzed in my room at las 10 a.m. He'll be at the hospital. 3 sentences that made my thighs clench. Webbick came reckless in the laundry room, pressed against the humming dryer in Theppel House during Richard's weekend golf game, once against the refrigerator. My legs wrapped around Noah Bennett's waist as he pressed me so firmly that for writhing around us seemed to fall apart. We nearly got caught when Richard came home early from surgery. Noah Bennett barely had time to zip his jeans before I smoothed my dress, my lips still from his mouth. You're flushed, Richard remarked, his surgeon's ice missing. Nothing, allergy medication. Elied, my pulse thundering. He nodded, absent, already scrolling through patient charts. At first it was sweet the way he'd bring me coffee. Just how I liked it, his fingers lingering when he passed the mug, how he'd watch me across the dinner double with dark knowing eyes, while Richard droned on about hospital politics. But then the text started. In need to see you now. Wear the red lingerie tonight. Tell me what you need, you'll give it to you. Commands, no requests. And when I didn't respond fast enough, don't make me come. I discovered the receipt first, a $300 charge at a jewelry store, not for my birthday, not for our anniversary. Then there was the scent, something floral and cheap, clinging to his jacket. When I confronted him, Noah Bennett just smirked, calling me jealous. Claire, the pet name, stung. He had stopped calling me moments ago. She's nothing, he said, crowding me against the wall, just so me own to pass the time when you're not available. He reached for me, his touch presumptuous, almost possessive. Unless you want me all to yourself. I came angry on, crying, hating him, hating myself. More distraction lingered in the air as Richard spoke one night over Scotch, hissed in casual, yet laced with an that surgeons possess before thy first incision. I managed a smiley, attributing my preoccupation to the Montgomery project. He swirled, his glasses gaze piercing. Noah Bennett seems different lately, he remarked. A chill slid down my spine. How so? I asked, more confident, like he's gotten exactly what he wanted. His cool blue eyes pinned him. Any idea what that might be? That night Noah Bennett cornered me in Thuican closet, his grip gentle yet firm. I'm done sharing you, he growled. Tell him you want a divorce. I laughed in disbelief. I pondered the notion of our happily ever after. As his lips collide with mine, fierce and commanding, we would exist solely by my terms for the first time. A sharp pang of fear pierced it through the haze of desire I discovered. Thumb drive nestled within his gym bag, filled with countless images, and each stolen moment careful filequinted. My face a portrait of ecstasy, wedding ring shimmering on finger, scent wind in his hair, alongside a folder ominously titled Insurance. Richard's message arrived at 3:17 a.m. An emergency meeting at the hospital. Don't wait up, Noah. Bennett's message followed. 30 seconds later, my bed now felt like a trap. The timing was too perfect, thwarting, too similar. I stood frozen in the dark, finally grasping that this was never about passion, it was about power, and I had handed him every weapon. Some decisions aren't made in moments. They're simply revealed like a knife slipping between ribs. The cut happens before you even feel the pain. The air in our bedroom was thick with the scent of Arbudy's musky sweet and laced with guilt. To Noah Bennett's weight pressed me into the mattress, his sweat a slicked skin clung to mine as he moved with the slow, deliberate rhythm of someone who knew precisely what he was doing to me. The digital clock on the nightstand glowed to 17 a.m. casting eerie blue dodo sacros. The rumpled sheets. Richard was at hospital for yet another overnight shift. Noah Bennett's teeth grazed. Meyerlobe, you're thinking about him. He wasn't, not really, but the mention of my husband sent a fresh wave of nausea rolling through me. I opened my mouth totally, then the front door slammed. He's jingling dress shoes clicking across marble. Richard returned home early. We didn't breathe, didn't move. The house wasn't, except for Richard's footsteps louder down the hall. Our door was unlocked and Noah Bennett's eyes locked onto mine, dark with something that Wasn't fear but challenge. His hips rolled once deliberately, making me bite down on a whimper. Noah Bennett's room, I hissed, shoving at his chest. Now hesmirked but finally pulled out the los-off, him making me gasp. I watched heart hammering as he seized his jeans and crept quietly into the hallway just as Richard's shadow loomed at the top off the stairs. I yanked the sheets up to my chin as Richard stepped inside looking worn, his typically immaculate white coat, no crumpled salt and pepper hair in disarray. "You're awake," he remarked, his gaze darting to my fleshed face, tangled hair clinging to my neck. "Couldn't sleep," I replied, my voice sounding strange, too high, too tight. Richard began to unbutton his shirt, his movements mechanical, then paused, sniffing the air. My blood turned to ice, observed as Richard's eyes narrowed, picking up the t-shirt Noah Bennett had carelessly left on the floor. The very own he had torn from me just an hour prior, still carrying the scent of us. "This isn't yours," he stated, not bothering to frame it as a question. I felt the chill of the room having burrowed it from Noah Bennett's lawn. Richard's fingers tightened around the fabric, and for a fleeting dreadfulment, I feared he might press it to his face, might inhale the truth. Instead, he let it fall from his grasp as if it were tainted and walked to the bathroom. Winced. The sound of the shower filled the air, and I held my breath until I heard the soft click of Noah Bennett's bedroom door of the hall was shut down, and 3 days slipped by in a blur of silent meals and averted gazes. Richard seized all touch, spoke only when absolutely necessary, yet it was the way he regarded me, as if I were an unsolvable equation that sent tremors through my hands. Then on Thursday night, Richard trapped me in the study, a mantle envelope clutched in his hand. I took it, and the world tilted not for Noah Bennett. Richard's smile was a thin bloody. He slid the envelope across the desk. Inside were photographs of me and Noah Bennett at a motel an hour away, my legs encircled by his waist. In the parking lot were time-stamped receipts from the afternoons Richard spent at the golf course, and worst of all, a grainy video still of Noah Bennett entering our bedroom the night Richard returned home yearly. "You have until morning to tell him," Richard said calmly, "or I will." I found Noah Bennett by the pool, shirtless in the moonlight, a beard dangling from his fingers. He took one look at my face. Unknew Noah Bennett's expression remained unchanged, and my laughter teetered on the edge of hysteria. "He's your stepfather, Noah Bennett Olivivs. He's not my father." Noah Bennett stewed, crowding into my space. "And you're not me mother. We both know what we are." Hishan slid up my thigh, fingers digging in possessively, the same fingers that had traced every inch of me. Just yesterday, Ishan had pushed him away. Should have run, but I wanted him to keep going instead. I leaned in. "What do we do?" Noah Bennett's mouth curved against my ear. "Webburn it all down." Richard was packing when I returned to our room. He didn't look up as I stood in the doorway, my entire body trembling. "I'll tell everyone, I said quietly. "Your appearance, the country club, the medical board, Islandshire. You never set foot in this town again. A month ago, such a threat would have shattered me. Now." I walked to the cassette and pulled out my suitcase. "Dowhat, you have to do." Richard finally looked up, shock flickering across his foos. "You're choosing him." I didn't sweary, just kept packing. The truth was, he wasn't choosing Noah Bennett. I was choosing me, the May who wanted to liveth. May who finally felt alive after decades of playing dead. Noah Bennett was waiting in the driveway when I dragged at dawn. He took my suitcase without a word, our fingers brushing in a silent agreement as we drove away. I didn't glance back at the house, didn't ponder if Richard was watching, all thought occupied. My mind was the thought that it should feel worse than this. Yet, as Noah Bennett's hand settled on my thigh, his hum tracing gentle circles through the fabric of my dress, all I felt was a sense of liberation. They say you can't lose what you never truly possessed. But I did. I lost myself. The divorce papers arrived on a Tuesday, and Richard hadn't even bothered to meet my gazé one. He left just he packed his suitcase, golf clubs, and the framed photo office from our honeymoon, leaving everything else behind, including me. The terms were brutal. The prenup I had signed all those years ago, back when I still believed in fairy tales, left me with nothing but a modest alimony and the clothes in my closet. The house, my house, the one I had decorated room by room, was his. Our social circle, even the book club I had hosted for 10 years. All belonged to him now, but none of that compared to the silence of waking up alone, the silence of no longer hearing Noah Bennett's voice. A laughter echoed in the kitchen, a stark contrasto, the silence that enveloped me as I confronted the unsettling truth. I had become precisely what my father had warned me against, a woman consumed by her own desires. The last time I saw Noah Bennett was 2 weeks after Richard moved out. I wish I could say it was foreclosure for a final tender moment. Wiru acknowledged our shared past and bid farewell, but it was not. He stood in theaterway, his duffel bag slung over one shoulder, Already halfway out of my life. I got a job in Seattle, he said, avoiding me gaze. Leaving tonight. I reached for him, and my fingers brushed against his wrist, and for just a fleeting moment reality wavered. His mask slippy, driveling. The boy I had pursued through nightmares, the teenager I had guided through college applications, the young man who had once called me mom without a second thought, but he was 22 now. Miss Stepson. And then it vanished, did it? Even matter. He walked away, never glancing back. I attempted to rebuild securing Asmal apartment across town, taking on freelance design work, even venturing Ginto. A few awkward dates with men you know aware of my past, yet every time I closed my eyes or I saw him, felt hishins on my skin, heard the way Hugh whispered my name like a prayer, tasted salt of his sweat. Then 6 months later, a single envelope arrived with no return address inside a newspaper clipping. Dr. Drive Thomas Caldwell, Anon Sentigent, to pediatric surgeon Benefit, in Noah Bennett's messy scroll. Guess. Both lost. I burned it in the sink. I looked older. Now the woman staring back at him has hollow cheeks, shadows under her eyes, lips that no longer remember how to smile sometimes. I wonder what would have happened if I pushed Noah Bennett away that first time, wishing I had been stronger, wishing I had been better. Bathotes. The nature of fire, once it consumes you, all that remains are Escher. Lies the truth that no one dares to speak of regarding forbidden desire. I dissent the guilt that shatters you, nor the shame, nor even the solitude. It's the knowing, the awareness that you'd do it all over again, that you'd barter every moral, every vow, every fragment of your soul for just one more touch. Deep down you realize you're exactly who they always warned you about, and the most unsettling part, you don't even care. Asuu traverse the remnants of my decisions. I ask you, what would you have altered? This narrative extends beyond me own. It serves as a mirror reflecting boundaries we believe we would never breach until life nudges us to the precipice. The inquiries that linger in me mind, and should linger in yours as well, are these: would you have recoiled at the first hint of his firmness against you, or would your body have betrayed you leaning in, rather than retreating? Could you have halted after initial kiss, or would you, like Mahav, conjured justifications to draw closer to him once more, or when did it truly embrace the role of the villain? Was it with that first touch, the initially, or the moment I prioritized pleasure over every belief I once held dear? Feel free to comment anonymously. I've never crossed this line yet. The thought has lingered. My marriage feels just as shallow. How close have I ventured? It's repulsive, yet I couldn't tear my eyes away. No judgment, no shame, just truth. The narrative isn't finished. Subscribe for the next confession, and yes, activate notifications so you don't miss the solitude transforms us all into monsters. Only inquiry is, what sort of monster are you evolving into? Once Mrs. Carterno, merely another cautionary tale.